Good morning Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to all of the loyal listeners of the Street 919 FM. As always, thank you for choosing the Street 919 FM as your frequency of choice this Sunday morning, the 18th of December 2022. Yes, 1 week away from Christmas. So next week Sunday would be Christmas Day. So persons would have already opened their gifts and the preparation of lunch would be well on its way. Yeah. So this is your last week to clean, to do your shopping and everything else in preparation for next Sunday. Good morning to Mr. and Mrs. Regis, Mr. and Mrs. Giuseppe. Good morning to Mother Tunapuna. Morning, Angie. Mano. Morning to all of my Allisons. Good morning, Allison Lewis, Allison Samuel, Allison Rojas. Morning to you guys. Morning to Mr. Chance. Rowley Jr. Morning, Barataria. Good morning to all of you guys. To the folks joining us on Facebook and YouTube. The president of, let me get this here, President of Pleasantville, good morning, sir. Mr. Nigel O'Connor, morning to you. Good morning, Carol. It was so good seeing you yesterday at Panchakram and Parang up at Millefleur. I trust that time was had and that we will see you next time. Yes, so for those of you who missed out Panchakram and Parang last evening at Millefleur, hosted by the National Trust, you missed a treat. Yeah, so Alicia Almonde Roche, good morning to you. Arlene Lewis, good morning. Condolences to the family of Annette Lewis on her passing, as it was brought to my attention this morning. Yeah, one of our loyal listeners. It's most unfortunate there, so condolences going out to her family. Nigel Bennett, good morning. What else we have here? Yeah, so I see the folks now joining us. I understand that today's World Cup final day, so lots of people will be glued to their televisions at this time to see who is going to lift that coveted trophy in just a couple hours. Yeah, so good morning, Carol. Morning, Gail. Morning, Jeff, Jack, Maria Lyons. Good morning to you. Gloria James. Morning. Right. Yes, so it is now 11:18, so let me see if I get into it quickly. I want to play something quickly for you guys. I don't know how many of you have been following the Commission of Inquiry into the Pariha incident where 4 divers would have lost their lives back in February. I haven't really been following it, but I see snippets from time to time when it's posted on Facebook, on the evening news, or perhaps what you read in the newspaper. And I saw this little clip that I'm going to play for you here. You know, I mean, Prakash Ramada is interrogating or cross-examining Mr. Colin Piper. And I've been saying, you know, a lot of these attorneys who are representing their whatever is their interest in this particular commission of inquiry, I don't know if it is that because they figure that they're in front of a camera and that the whole of Trinidad and Tobago and extension other places can see them, that they need to papi show, you know, and behave in this manner. I've never been in a live courtroom where a case has been taking place to see how cross-examination takes place. But I mean, what I am seeing here, I would tantamount to badgering. I mean, Prakash Ramada, all the clips I've seen of him walking up and down, and as I heard Rhoda Barrett say, you have about 5 different accents. But if it is that you want to get the information out of the witnesses, I mean, you don't need to be as nasty as appears. But anyway, I want to play this for you all, and then I just want to offer my perspective on some of what we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks. So take a listen. Just give me 1 sec here. Let me see what's happening with this audio. Let's know. Come on, what's going on here? Why isn't this playing? Some pizza. That's not. That's not me. One second. No, and I hate it.
It's supposed to be clean.
Yeah. All right, so just give me 1 second, folks. I'm just trying to work out some little technical difficulties here, so just give me 1 quick minute. Let's see. Still on screen?
About the time countdown, yeah? Every minute becoming more and more
Yes, sir. I
precious.
still didn't have the information
Right.
about the inside of
And
the
when
pipe.
did you expect to get your information?
I needed to assess, sir. I still could not send anybody in that pipe.
Saving rescuer. You agree?
This is the person at this point in time.
Yeah.
Right, I'm aware.
What time was this? Don't forget we have an appeal at 5, so do hurry up.
Yes, sir. Well, if you allow me to answer the question.
Yeah. What time
Right.
did you become aware that Conan was willing to go into the pipe?
I became aware that people were diving into the pipe at about 6:25 on Friday evening.
Mr. Conan Bedo, when did you become aware that he was willing to go into the pipe?
I did not get the name of the person on that night. Right? All I knew was people were willing to go into the pipe.
People saying like,
Yes, they had a couple of divers willing to go. One was Michael Kurban.
one was Michael Kurban. You had Catherine Balkisoon, your eyes and ears at the scene. You agree?
Yes, sir.
So at no stage did you know that there was a professional diver willing to go into the pipe? You say all kind of people. Let me talk about professional divers, commercial professional divers.
Yes, so we had other commercial divers there that night who told me no, shouldn't go in the pipe.
You listen to the no's. Let me hear about the yes. Yes to life.
So we are coming back to the same position where...
Sir, you let me do my job, you answer, and we will get through, and his lordship will go to his appeal for 5. Okay? So, question. You did not know through your eyes and ears, whether it is Catherine or whomever at the scene, that there was a commercial professional diver ready, willing, able, and equipped to go into the pipe?
I don't know that there was anybody. I know somebody was willing, right? I know they had the equipment. They're able to go in that pipe. No, sir, on the conditions were known. No, sir, I didn't know they were able.
You didn't know. Did you care to know what they knew?
Yes, sir.
Good. What inquiry did you make?
Sir.
What inquiry did you make?
So I keep coming back to the same
Keep
place.
going where you want to go. Answer the question.
No.
Did you make an inquiry?
No, sir.
No, thank you
right
very much.
at that time, I was trying to find out what was happening in the pipe.
You remember what
right?
you told
Because
us?
I still could not send anybody in that pipe.
You remember what you told us about the time come down, yeah? Every minute becoming more
Yes,
and more
sir. I
precious.
still didn't have the information
Right.
about the inside of
And
the
when
pipe.
did you expect to get your information?
I needed to assess, sir. I still could not send anybody in that pipe until I got that information.
When did you expect to obtain the necessary information to give
I
you
was
the comfort?
trying my best,
I
sir.
didn't ask you that.
I
What was your timeline that you were
cannot-
No, we can't.
My lord,
Stop.
could you ask him?
Stop,
Yes.
both of you, please. One person at a time.
Yeah.
You ask a question, you pause. You answer the question, then you pause.
Thank you.
Try and keep it brief, both of you,
Thank you.
please.
Could we, while we have...
Or I'll bring it to an end.
While we have this moment, to please advise the witness to answer what he's asked and nothing else. I am not here for a speech. Okay? What was it? Yeah. When did you expect to get the necessary information to give you the comfort to press the button, go, to get those men?
As soon as I could get my cameras down, sir.
Cameras.
Right, I could get the
And we've
information.
been through that before. You knew that they were hours away, the cameras, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that at the time when you had a live, willing, able diver.
Sir, if I may, are you suggesting then with all the information I should just take the decision to be reckless? No, sir, I was not prepared to do that.
Yeah, you use the word reckless. You use the word reckless.
Yes, sir.
The lack of recklessness led to what? The death of four.
What would recklessness lead to, sir?
Yeah, the death of 4.
So should I be reckless?
No, but you are using the word reckless. I'll come into that in a minute. Do you know, because you have taken the authority and you're the decider, and you're the one who said no dive, that your decision to not decide or to stop the diving ultimately led to no rescue. You agree with that?
Sir, can you repeat that?
Certainly. Your decision to stop the dive ultimately led to no rescue. You agree with that?
No, sir.
So you did cause a rescue.
No, sir. In consultation, that was not what stopped. That was not why we ended up with no rescue.
No.
We spoke with the rescuers and nobody was willing to go into the pipeline. The professionals, right, those professional divers, they were not willing to go into the pipeline.
Yeah.
My dive supervisor advised me the same, and all those things combined
And what
led
time?
to no
Sorry,
rescue.
I beg your pardon. I don't want to interrupt your
Yes.
your
That was
lawless-
later on, sir.
What
When-
time?
That
What
was
time?
later on, around midnight.
Around midnight.
Yes.
What was your timeline for death?
Sir,
What was your timeline for death?
we were saying about maybe 5 hours or so.
From
right?
what time?
Yes.
5 hours from
We
what?
were saying from about the time Mr. Bodram came out.
Right? So
Right.
you're talking 10.
Yes, sir, but
Right.
I
So
still
you-
could not send anybody in that pipeline.
Right, because
We're going over the same territory.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know.
We've covered all of this. Can I, apropos your question, it might be helpful if you have your timeline in front of you. If you go to 1573, please.
Yes.
15, a disclaimer, or if he was asked to sign it.
Man, I sorry I intervene, but this is law, and I don't know if you could have a disclaimer.
Care to explain?
No, I don't know if you know what a disclaimer is.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Well, you say something to disclaim any
liability?
disclaim. Yes, sir.
Did you raise that issue with anyone? That, look, people are willing, there are men who are certainly going to die if I don't take action. That you want to go, I'm telling you there are tremendous risks. I do not advise this, but you can choose to and sign off a disclaimer.
Sir.
Man, I sorry I intervene, but this is law, and I don't know if you could have a disclaimer to in those circumstances legally. That is a matter which my friend can make submissions, and if you could find law to support that at the end of the day.
That's true. On the other hand, I don't see any harm in being asked if he considered a disclaimer, or if he was asked to sign a disclaimer. Whether or not it had any efficacy in law is a separate matter.
No, sir. I wouldn't ask. I don't think that really is a fair position to put anybody in. I don't think so. For a disclaimer, no.
Hold on. You're not putting anybody in a position, you know. People are volunteering to go. You are saying, no, I need to assess. Right? You had access to Kenson. You had access to a number of, well, you had the resources of the state available to you to get advice, isn't it?
Sir, I wouldn't ask anybody to sign any disclaimer in a situation like that.
I didn't ask you whether you would. I asked you if you had access to advice.
Yes, I could have sought advice. I didn't think of asking for any disclaimer. I don't think that is a position somebody should take in something like this.
So that you accept responsibility one way or the other for anything that happens on Paria's estate. Is that accurate?
There is a difference between your saying to someone, please enter the pipe and rescue these men, right? Mm-hmm. There's a difference between that and saying to someone, I cannot authorize this. If you want to go ahead and do it, that's your business. But I cannot, and my advice to you, and everything I've heard, is this is completely wrong. You shouldn't do it. But I'm not going to physically stop you if you want to do it. There's a distinction between those two, isn't it?
Understood.
I'm not preaching one or the other. I'm simply saying that there is a distinction between those two. And I think Mr. Ramadar is asking you whether or not, in effect, you ever considered the latter.
Well, we actually did consider a disclaimer to OTSL, right? Correct, yes. Indemnity.
The guys who tell you, no, we're not going after midnight.
Yes.
Is that accurate? Yeah?
Yes, sir, that was later on, yes.
When, in reality, I mean...
So it's a 22-minute clip, and I don't have time to play everything, but there were two things that came out of this little interrogation here that I wanted to touch on quickly. First of all, this insistence about, there being professional divers who could have gone down and saved the men. What is a professional diver? Because I heard Prakash talk about professional divers, commercial divers who could have gone down. And again, while the focus, and this is just me, I ain't no lawyer, I ain't no analyst, so I'm just, looking at the situation, looking at some of these clips, and, some thoughts come to mind. So I'm thinking, based on what Prakash Ramada is saying here, is that you have professional divers who could have gone down and attempted the rescue. Okay. But you don't know what it is you're going to meet in the pipeline. You don't know, but you just send them down. Because the guy is saying you needed to do an assessment, wanted to send down cameras to see what were the dangers, if it is that the Delta P was still a threat. Because you have 4 people inside and you don't want to send 2 or 3 or 4 more, and then you end up in the same situation. Right? But the question that comes to my mind, okay, professional divers, commercial divers, these people have any medical training? Does that constitute or make them professional divers? Because if you have 4 men who are sucked into a pipeline, you don't know the extent of their injuries. Because earlier on we would have heard talk about the possibility of there being perhaps broken limbs as a result of the force of the Delta P sucking them in a 30-inch diameter pipeline. Confined space, so anything could happen. You don't know what angle it is they would have been sucked in. So the impression that we keep getting from this is that the simple thing would have been to send the divers down with about a mile of rope. And when you get inside the pipe, what was going to happen next? So you encounter the first diver. Is it that you were going to tie the rope around him and pull him out, or give him the rope to hold and pull him out? I'm not hearing this information. Because it's one thing to go into the pipeline. It's another thing to tell us what would have happened once you were in the pipeline and you encountered the divers. Because some of you all may recall, when it is that they went and they retrieved the bodies, some difficulty was encountered at first because the bodies were lodged behind diving equipment. Bearing in mind, this is a 30-inch diameter pipe, so not much wiggle room. So if you go inside there, in order to get at the men, you need to remove the dive equipment, because there's not this large expanse of space where you could just, if it's an oxygen tank, you could take it and shove it aside, because again, it's a confined space. So my understanding of that is that if the divers went in, you encounter the dive equipment, the men are behind it, you need to take it out. So you had to come back out, get rid of it, go back in. We don't know how much dive equipment they were behind, so that when the gentleman who was rescued, Mr. Boudram, I think is his name, said that the divers, the others, were right behind him. Clearly they weren't right behind him, because Mr. Kurban, and again, that's for those of us who follow it, who went in, whose father was in the pipeline, and he went in at first to attempt a rescue, and he had to abandon that first attempt and come back out because, from what I read, he ran out of hose. He reached as far as the elbow in the pipeline, and up to that point in time, he had not encountered any of the divers and had to turn back, right, to go back and get a longer hose or rope or whatever it is. So, while they make it seem as if the easy thing to do would have just simply to send commercial divers, professional divers down there and rescue the men, I'm asking the question. If you didn't know the physical condition of these men, if they suffered any injuries, how then would you know what is the best course of action to take to remove these men from the pipeline? Because we've all heard from time to time, sometimes a person they get an injury, and you call the medical service, you call for the ambulance, the EMTs, and they tell you, do not move the person, because you don't know what injuries they have suffered. And if it is that you move them improperly and you don't have the training and the capacity and the wherewithal to deal with that type of injury, you could actually cause the person's death. Maybe the person suffered a fractured rib, a broken rib, and that rib could puncture their lung, you kill them. Perhaps they damaged their spine, and you move them in an inappropriate way, and as a result of that, you could lead to some sort of dislocation, resulting in the person's permanent disability, permanent paralysis, or any other thing. So if it is that you don't have that medical training, you are advised not to touch the person. So my question is, all of these commercial divers who they keep talking about could have just gone down and saved these men. Did they have that type of training so that when they reach into the pipeline to determine, well, okay, this man, this is the extent of his injury, so this is the course of action? Because we came down here to rescue the man, but we don't want to do anything that could result in his demise. Suppose these men had broken arms, because there's a lot of supposition and what ifs we get in from these guys. What if it was your father, or what if it was your son that was in the pipeline? The course of action that you would have taken would have been different, right? So the question is not being asked. Once you get into the pipeline, what was supposed to happen next? So if it is you were going to tie the rope around these guys, or you just give them the rope to hold and pull them out. Suppose first diver, his arms were broken. Obviously, he can't hold on to nothing to pull. And based on the distance inside the pipeline that they were, is a I think they said it was the pipeline was half mile long. So they would have, and if it is that Mr. Kurban, when he went in and up to the point that he reached, he didn't encounter the divers, he didn't encounter the dive equipment when he decided to come back out, because, as they said, the hose that he went in wasn't long enough. So they would have had to have gone in some way. You all would also recall that when they finally retrieved all of the bodies, the last body, it took them a little extra time, longer than it took to retrieve the other three, because he was further down in the pipeline. So if we are to be told that it would have been a simple rescue, just send these commercial and professional divers down. If it is it took them, I think it was an extra day or so to retrieve the final body, are we to then believe that it would have been that easy for the rescue team if they had gone in? They would not have encountered the same challenges that the retrieval team encountered in finding victim number 4. That's what we're supposed to believe. Then I hear the issue about this disclaimer, this waiver. So you had people there, basically what Prakash Ramira is saying, you had people there, divers, Professional divers who are willing to take the risk, who are willing to go down there, go into the pipeline and save these men. Okay, no problem. We don't know what the risk is. We don't know what challenge is, because up to that point in time, the only information we had was from Mr. Boudram, who was rescued, who said, the men right behind me, they're in the pipeline. So that's what we know. At that point in time, they didn't know what caused the Delta P, which we subsequently learned only recently was as a result of the fault of LMCS. The Guardian dated Thursday, December 8, 2022. LMCS dive team made decision to remove plug from Paria pipeline. LMCS supervisor Dexter Guerra says the decision to remove the inflatable plug from a Paria Fuel Trading Company pipeline was made by his diving team for convenience. The removal of the plug was found to be the cause of the deadly February 25th accident, in which 4 members of the LMCS dive team lost their lives in an independent report commissioned by the OSH. Guerra was testifying before the Commission of Inquiry set up to investigate the incident. Attorney for Paria Fuel Trading Limited, Senior Counsel Gilbert Peterson, grilled Guerra about whether or not he saw the removal of the plugs on the toolbox form, to which he reluctantly agreed that he had not. Peterson asked him if he had made LMCS owner Kazim Ali Sr. aware of this, to which he also said, no, I did not. Peterson referenced an incident on February 17 when Guerra was demoted for not following Paria's procedures and asked the plug was probably removed on the 25th because it was more convenient to do it at that stage rather than to try to do it at a later stage. Guerra then said no discussion came up during the toolbox meeting before work started on February 25th. Peterson then asked if the decision to remove the plug was due to Guerra being unable to figure out how to reach it from the top. Guerra said if this was not done, LMCS would have found it difficult to remove the plug. I feel we would. If we did that, we might have had to lower somebody down with the crane inside the pipe to remove it. Goes on to say on February 17, Guerra was demoted for removing a barge without authorization by Ali Sr. just about a week before the fatal incident. His reasoning for removing the barge then was that it was safer to do so early in the day. And Guerra said removing the barge from before getting a permit to work from Paria was an established procedure. So we understand now that what caused the Delta P incident was, again, LMCS attempting, well, the person who was in charge, the supervisor, they're taking a decision to remove the plug because they felt that it was convenient. We take a shortcut, and that shortcut resulted in the incident. But we're not focusing on what caused the Delta P that resulted in the accident. You know. We're focusing on Paria and their decision to do an assessment before you send anybody down to try and attempt a rescue. It's just like with the situation or that issue with Vincent Nelson, where the focus and all of the focus and attention was only placed on the indemnity and Paris and the indemnity, rather than the substance of the witness statement that was provided by Mr. Nelson, where it is that he indicated dates, he indicated amounts, bank account number, and all of that. Monies that was transferred from his account to that of Gerald Ramdeen on behalf of, allegedly, Anand Ram Logan. So all of the editorials, all of the letters to the editor, and all of the commentary and so on only focusing on indemnity and whether Faris had the authority to do indemnity. But the substance of what led to all of this, the allegation of millions of dollars being paid in kickbacks, your taxpayers' money. Nobody, we didn't really keep, that wasn't important. That wasn't as important as the indemnity, right? So we come back here now to the same situation where we're not focusing on what caused the Delta P that resulted in these men being sucked into the pipeline. No, instead let's just focus on what Paria do and what Paria didn't do. And now the suggestion by Prakash Ramada that if it is Mr. Piper and others were uncomfortable with sending persons down into that pipe, not knowing what the situation was, not wanting to risk further possibly loss of life, not wanting to further risk a situation where more people could be trapped in this pipeline. His suggestion is that you should have just let the people who were willing to go down sign a waiver or a disclaimer stating, we understand the risks and we are willing to go into this pipeline to attempt this rescue, and we absolve Paria and by extension the government of Trinidad and Tobago of any liability should something happen while we go down there, and if it is that we end up being trapped in the pipeline too, nobody, our families can't sue the government and they cannot sue Paria. So just let them sign that and then say, go ahead, no problem. That's what he's implying here, right? Now, I want to draw your attention. If it is that we are to use this rationale, I want to apply this rationale to another incident that took place last year. You all may recall that there was a fire that took place in Rokrinook in Maraval last year in which 3 young children lost their lives, right? I recall seeing a video, a most disturbing video on Facebook, where the 17-year-old was lying on the ground in the gallery, right? He was lying on his left side, his left arm outstretched through the bars. And you could tell, looking at his arm, the skin was burnt off, so you're just seeing the pink flesh. And you're seeing on his head evidence of burns and so on. And he is lying on his side and he's just lifting his hand up like this, up and down, as if beckoning to the fire officers, beckoning to his father and whoever else was there. Help me. Help me. As I said, I don't know how many of you saw that video, but I found it to be most disturbing. And the child is lying there, his arm just moving, barely moving, up and down, beckoning for help. And I am saying to myself, I looking at the situation, but look, the child right there. Look, the child is right there. You're seeing him, the fire officers there, the father. Why it is that they just can't go and do something to help the child? He's right there. Why they couldn't bring the jaws of life and cut the bars, cut out 2 of the bars and pull the child out? He's right there. You're seeing him. He's not inside the house where you had to go and look. He's right there on the ground. Now, to the uninitiated, those of us who are not trained in rescue, we are not fire officers, we seeing that and we thinking, well, okay, why they can't get a bolt cutter and go quick and cut the padlock and open the gate and just take out the child? He's right there. The fire officers on that day took the decision to wait until the fire was brought under control and then to enter the house to save the children. Right? By the time that happened, the 3 children had perished. So as I said, based on the video, at that point in time, the child was still alive, 17-year-old. So if we had to take Prakash Ramada's rationale of a disclaimer, what the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service should have done, because the father was willing to run inside the house to attempt to save his children, was to tell the father, sign this waiver here, understand I'll be telling you there's a danger because the building is well lit. We don't know if it is when you're rushing there at this point in time, the ceiling, the roof could collapse and kill you. We don't, the smoke inhalation, all of these different things, you could perish. These are the risks, and this is why we, as the professionals, aren't going to take the chance to run in, notwithstanding the fact that we're seeing the child right there. But we can't get him through because of the burglar proofing. So we either have to remove the burglar, find a way to remove the burglar proofing, or open the gate and take him out. But we can't do that because based on our assessment as professionals, the building is well lit and it is not safe. So if you want to go in, sign here stating that we warned you and we told you what the risks were. So you sign here, good, you understand? Proceed. Run inside the house and you go and save your children. Because remember the question was, if it was your father or if it was your son inside the pipeline, the course of action would have been different. Well, in this case with the fire, right? The father was willing to go. It's his son. Now, if we were to hold a commission of inquiry into that incident, I could imagine Prakash Ramada asking the fire officers, so if it was your son that was lying down on the ground there, with his hands outstretched, body badly burnt, but still alive, would you still have taken the decision to wait until the fire was brought under control to enter the building to try and save him? Or would you have taken a different course of action to run in there, risk your life and save him? Now, I'm just asking that question. Because if that is the case, then they should have just let the child father go inside the building and run the risk that he too might have perished, notwithstanding the fact that the father and another fire officer had also sustained injuries, burn injuries, and I think the 2 other children as well had also suffered injuries. But at that point in time, you still had an opportunity. Why didn't the fire officer save the child? Why did they decide to wait until the fire was brought under control? If we were to juxtapose the two situations here. Don't do any assessment of the risks. Just run in and do what you have to do. Once we have people on scene who are willing to take the risk to go and attempt a rescue, just let them go and do it. And to hell with the potential consequences. But that didn't happen in that case. The 3 children perished, unfortunately. Because while the officers were trying to bring the fire under control, every minute, every second that passed meant that is the possibility that this is going to turn into a retrieval and not a rescue becomes greater. So I just asking the question, with respect to this whole situation here with the parish, if it is that you're advocating, you should have just send the divers in to go and attempt to save these men. It is only after we learned dive equipment was blocking the pipeline. So you have to go and take out the dive equipment and then go back inside and try to save them. We don't know what is their condition. We don't know what injuries they suffered. We don't know if any point of removing them from the pipeline, but potential injuries, if it is that might not also have caused the unfortunate demise. But we only want to focus on There were people willing, people who were able to go down there, enter the pipeline, and retrieve these men. And when I read some of the comments from some of the supporters of the UNC, they don't really care about, this whole situation with the men and the families, They just want to be able to pin something on Paria so that they could come and say, you see, it's because they shut down Petrotrin and they create this company Paria and things not safe at Paria. We just need to do something to make it seem, and again, this is based on reading the comments of some of the UNC supporters, we need to do something, get something against Paria to say the decision to restructure Petrotrin, the decision to close the refinery was a bad decision. And we saw it last week with this publication of this story about the issue of Paria being owed money by NP and Unipet, and a letter that was sent by the chairman of Paria to the Minister of Finance back in September. We understand now, having listened to the Minister of Energy, Stuart Young, who was interviewed by Google some days ago, that matter was dealt with completely within days, a couple days of the minister receiving the letter. But of course, the media house that published that didn't see it fit to publish that fact. We just need to create a situation or a narrative that all is not well with Paria, all is not well with Heritage, and that this whole decision to restructure Petrotrin was a bad idea. So in large measure, I feel for the families of these four men, because this will be their first Christmas without their loved ones. But we cannot allow emotion to override common sense. All right? That makes no sense. Because unless you did an assessment of the risks, at that point in time, you didn't know that it was a Delta P that caused that. You didn't know what the heck caused this incident for these four men to be sucked, or these 5 men, to be sucked into the pipeline. We don't know what caused it. You don't know if it was still live, it was still active, but let me just send more people inside it without doing any sort of assessment as to what are the risks. Let me bring some kind of equipment to scan the pipeline if possible to see where exactly these men are. If it is, there's another entry point as opposed to going in and having to go the entire length or expanse of the pipeline. What is the best course of action? No, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. Instead, all we know, there were people willing to do the work, a man willing to risk his life. And you hear what he said? Prakash Ramana said there were people there who were willing to take the risk. The risk. Risk at that point in time was unknown. But as we go into the pipeline, we will figure it out, because we don't know what we're going to meet inside there. But we'll just do it on the fly. So when we reach in there, well, whatever happen. We get inside, okay. But based on whatever we encounter at that point in time, we will deal with that. If it is we reach in there and realize, hey, we didn't know that there was dive equipment blocking, so we need to figure out a way to treat with that. All the while, the clock is ticking. Yeah? Again, we don't know if it is that we remove that, if it is that blocking anything that could prevent further suction. We don't know all of that. But we will just deal with it on the fly as we go in. And therefore, but if it is that had been allowed, and 3 or 4 other men had been sucked into the pipeline as well, and they were trapped, Prakash would be singing a different tune, because he'd probably be representing the families of those people as well. They say, well, why is it, if it is you didn't do an assessment of the risk, why did you send in more people there? Why did you allow them to go in when you didn't know what it is they would encounter? 6 or 1/2 a dozen of the next. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. But this is just my perspective based on listening to some of this what is taking place here, And I'm sure people will have different perspectives, because there are probably people listening now who vex and find, well, Piper was wrong, okay. But I see the ads coming up, folks, so stay locked and we'll come back on the other side of 12 o'clock and we'll take your calls.
And so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street. 919 FM.
Scotiabank Magna MasterCard is back with its special Christmas giveaway. Just swipe for more rewards. Every time you swipe your card, get instantly entered for a chance to win 1,500 points on your Scotiabank Magna MasterCard. Get more this Christmas. More points, more rewards, more money. Swipe for more rewards. rewards today with your Scotiabank Magna MasterCard. Promotion runs until January 15th, 2023. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Visit magnarewards.com for more details. Approved by the NLCB.
Every year, there is a sound that we wait to hear. It's the sound that lets us know it's coming. It's the sound that signals the beginning. It's the sound of SOS.
SOS! Soca on the sand!
Pigeon Point Beach, Tobago, January 1st.
New Year's morning!
4 a.m. to 12 p.m.
This is one fet everybody know. The start the carnival, boy. We heading Pigeon Point Beach, Tobago. We partying from 4 o'clock in the morning till midday. Soca on the sand. SOS!
Ladies, start linking your crews. We celebrate women everywhere.
February 3rd, yours truly will be there. See you there.
Soca for Her 2023. Coming to the Queen's Park Savannah, Friday, February 3rd.
This is a soca
Featuring the talented and beautiful Patrice Roberts,
Nadia Batson, alongside the world's biggest soca superstars.
Soca for Her. Soca for Her 2023.
Soca for Her Friday, February the 3rd. Come out to the big yard. Queen's Park Savannah, your pharmacy, so tune.
Get early bird tickets now at islandetickets.com and caches nationwide.
Soca for Her 23.
Queen's Park Savannah.
Rwanda gets shot. PRILLIANT. Excellent. 12 years old. Born CORN.
On behalf of the Street 919 FM, we want to congratulate and thank all of our participants of the 91 Days of Christmas promotion. Collection date for 91 Days of Christmas will be on Monday, 19th December 2022. Bring your children and come down to the Street 919 FM on number 56A, Marval Road, Spain, to collect their gift and a special surprise. Parents and guardians, please remember to walk with your ID on Collection Day.
Bread and ham together with a passion. Ginger beer, punch up grandma story.
Merry Christmas!
Join Pastor Kelvin Heinerine and friends for The Way, The Truth, The Life Radio Ministry, a Church of God ministry, live on the Street 919 FM from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This and every Sunday on the Street 919 FM. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father except through me. John chapter 14, verse 6. For further information, contact 686-3845-349-5178 or 342-7303.
Want to furnish your home in style? Stylus Furniture makes this possible. Shop using our affordable layaway options to purchase any of our modern sectionals, dining, living room or bedroom sets, and receive a dinner voucher for two at Atlee's Restaurant and Lounge. For further information, contact us at 652-2542, 652-2688 or 790-1202. You can also visit any of our branches located at 101 Craignish Village, Princestown and 51 Rushford Street in San Fernando. Stylus Furniture, for the style in you.
This Christmas, let your bucket overflow with a festive feast from KFC.
A festive feast
This Christmas at KFC, a festive feast. Fill your belly till you're merry. 9-piece at chicken, fine regular size. For $1.45, KFC so nice. KFC festive feast is the way to go. This Christmas KFC make your bucket overflow.
Get a festive feast bucket with 9 pieces of chicken and 5 regular sides for $145. Only from KFC.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying locked to the Street 919 FM. There's just one other thing I wanted to touch on quickly here, right? Now, during his testimony, Mr. Piper alluded to some statistics with respect to confined space rescue. Statistics which was researched by one of the attorneys, Nairi Afonso, who also was engaged in some interrogation. And she indicated to him that when she heard him quote some statistics that she was surprised and she was taken aback, and she went to do her own research to confirm. And in fact, it said, and I was able to pull it up as well, that I'm trying to find the exact thing here, right? Yeah, I think there's it here. Based on the statistics that I'm seeing here from this, it says 60% of the fatalities, or 60% of the persons who die in confined spaces are would-be rescuers. Persons trained in the use of emergency rescue. 60% of the times when you have fatalities with respect to confined space rescue, 60% of the deaths or the fatalities that take place in these confined space rescues are the would-be rescuers. And this is coming from the Center for Disease Control in the United States of America. All right, so this is based on analysis that they would have done of attempted rescues in confined spaces, which that was a 30-inch diameter pipeline. So with those odds, and that statistics, this is based on actual research. This is based on actual a study of actual incidents that would have taken place. That 60% of the fatalities in confined space rescues are the would-be rescuers. But we ain't studying that. It was just, you had people there who were willing to take the risk. If it is you don't want to have that liability on your hand, that you send these divers down there, these professional divers, send them down there, and then next thing something else happen, and instead of 4 lives at risk, you end up with 8 or 10, and you don't want that on your hands. Well, here what to do. Everybody who willing to do it, just give them a disclaimer or a waiver, a liability waiver, and tell them sign this. And once they sign that, you are absolved of liability, and allow them to proceed. And whatever happen. Right? So if more lives are lost, well then, Paria don't have no liability because you have a document you could show in court to say, well, look, this man signed this. I told them what the risks are. I told them we were not comfortable with sending people down there because we didn't know what you would meet in the pipeline. And this is a first of its kind, at least in Trinidad, rescue of this nature. And we need to assess everything. But he say he ready to go because time is of the essence. So he went. He was warned and he still decided to go. So that's okay. So then that should now become the standard. That any incident that takes place, whether it's a fire, whether it's an accident, or whatever it is, once it is that the professionals on site are of the view that you shouldn't attempt an immediate rescue based on emotion, but rather you need to do an assessment first, put a cogent plan in place, and then attempt the rescue. If it is your persons on site who are telling you, no, we are not ready, we are not willing to wait on that, we just want to go, well, no problem. Go ahead. Just sign here and proceed. We will present a copy of this to your family if it is, God forbid, that you should die. Yeah? So, anyway, just give me 1 sec. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Hey, Jen.
Are you hearing me properly?
Loud and clear. I hope TSTT don't mess up today.
Good afternoon to all the callers and listeners on 91.9, and again, season greetings to all. And again, I'm sending condolences to the friend, family, and the collective fraternity and the passing of singing Francine Edwards.
Yes.
And those in Barbados who too will be going through the grief that they're going through because she was born in Barbados. So I do send my love and support. And not forgetting the music she would have done and the person that she was, we'll celebrate her.
Indeed.
In life as we do in death. With that matter with Paria, I think Prakash, this is my opinion, Prakash Ramadan, they just behaving like that for camera.
Yes.
It can't be that they seriously want anything to come out of it. Because I heard Ramesh Lawrence Maraj would have read an OSHA report from a foreign safety company agency that would have said that out of the 4 divers that went down, only 2 had a commercial diver's license. The others were scuba divers.
Right.
And there's a difference between scuba divers and commercial divers. Scuba divers are able to stay under the water much longer, go to deeper depths, and the whole apparatus they have on is totally different. They have an umbilical from the hat, they have the helmet or something that they have on. But scuba divers can't go to that length. They don't have enough oxygen to stay down long. Not only that, scuba divers are not trained to deal with Delta P situations. And that is what happened with the pipeline. It was at Delta P. So you're telling me that nobody's looking at the fact that most of those divers went down there with just scuba divers. They weren't trained to deal with Delta P. And those who may have been trained to deal with it when that situation happened, they have to now probably try to treat with those who weren't trained to deal with it and also with getting things right. And panic may have set in. I wasn't there, so I don't. But the point I'm making, why are they not also looking at that factor? So who is to be held liable for sending untrained men into that type of situation? Is it that they're accustomed going so nothing ever happened? So, no seeing, and now that it happened, that this has come to the front. And that is what a lot of agencies, companies, departments, and all those things do. They allow certain things to continue, and we are accustomed doing that. And when bacchanal break out health and safety issues, everybody just pulling a corner. And that is wrong. And then the workers themselves have an individual responsibility to not do work that is injurious and dangerous to the health, life and safety, especially if they're not trained. The OSHA protects you by refusal to work in that circumstances. So when they're looking to put blame, don't just rest it Paria, don't just rest it here. Everybody has to take some type of blame. I can't say how much is more for this one than this one, but everybody concerned has to take some blame. And if they look at the OSHA report, then that is a genesis to see where people should be looking into throwing blame. And as you rightly said, we don't know the situation down here. So sending men, the Coast Guard saying, and with them was commercial divers, so them ain't going down. That when I think end up with more 10, 15 people, and then we're going to say, oh, they should not send them and all that. So emotions are running high. I understand it is, and again, condolences to the family, especially around this time when families think. However, when action, when you take certain risks that you should not take. Let me finally wrap up with this. OAS, that was a matter with Dr. Murura Mulilan and everybody in the UNC and the opposition was bawling that this government had to use taxpayers' money to pay back OAS $1 billion and all kind of things that was saying when this government appealed the decision by the arbitrators who said, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not a lawyer, that even if OAS didn't finish the work in the Solomon Hochoy Highway, whatever they do, a clause was removed by Karma Prasad Bissessa and her government about 2 days or 3 days before the general election of 2015, where and all companies in the event that they contracted to do will get
TSTT sabotage in again.
And win back the $1 million. because it's for us. If I say no, nobody say nothing. The thing I don't think it's for really is dragging. But we will do what we have to do, and we keep Christopher Rowe and his astute leadership with all his ministers and that taxpayers get back $1 billion from a bankrupt company from Brazil, that Kamala and them remove the clause which would hold them liable with the bond they pay, that if they didn't finish the work on Salmon Hotel Highway, they remove that. And then we had was to pay that, and this government fight, and we get back all we money. So thank God for Dr. T. Christopher Rowley. Thank you so much, Dominic. Reach home safely back.
Thank you, Jen. Up to now, not a word from Munilal, not a word from Kamala on the latest development. But they care about country and taxpayers' money. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Dominic. How are you?
Good, sir. How things?
Yeah, man. I just want to send wishes to all the family of Titans for Democracy. Have a good and wonderful Christmas.
Thank you.
Be careful on the nation's road. You too, Dominic. To Miss Sean Felix, Pastor Google, Aisha Wells, the boss himself, Iwer George. The DJs all, wish you have a safe Christmas, have a good time. Listen to what Jenny had to say. But, Dominic?
Yes, sir.
You know what I noticed about all the media covering that talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The same thing that they're talking about with the cap removal done by LMCS.
Yes.
And everybody is blaming Paria after Paria. All they're studying is that let the people get the money from Paria, who Paria tail, so Paria is to be blamed for that traffic incident. Notwithstanding the fact that key evidence pointed out that the cap has been removed, and why is that the media not talking about it? I find it passing strange. Even in all the 7 o'clock news, they are editing this story, making it look like whenever the people from Paria the testifying, they're making them look like the bad guys.
Yes.
And I have noticed that for the longest while. And as far as I'm concerned, there are certain people in that commission inquiry who should not even be there. Like Prakash Ramadar, and I will say it, and I'm not ashamed to say it, even Ramesh Downs Marad, they are affiliated with a certain political party in this country. Do you agree with me, yes or no?
Yeah.
So I find passing strange is a conflict of interest. And I'm hoping that the guy who is spearheading the commission inquiry, the English guy there, I hope he recognize that these two fellas are associated with an opposition party in this country. And as far as I'm concerned, these two guys should recuse themselves. Right? But you see, they're making a bacchanal with this, and I noticed something here too. I don't know, I'm surprised I didn't talk about this one. I see they want to make a bacchanal with the so-called highway that is going from Toko.
Yes.
Right? Because I've seen the thumbprint of the UNC where they're saying highway headache and a traffic engineer say $1.7 billion for project can be better spent. Where did you hear that term from? Money could be spent better. Where did you hear that from, Dominic? Who does talk about that? Money could be better spent.
Yes.
But when people are talking about the Point Fortin highway and the amount of money, people are talking about that.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time when you hear stories about people building highway. You remember the bacchanal when Patrick Manning was building the Go Martin Highway extension from Diamondville side?
Yes.
And they make a big hullabaloo about that?
Yes.
Let me take you way back. Remember back in the days of Chambers and them? Remember when they was building the Audrey Jeffers Highway?
Yeah, I don't remember that. I would have been in
you would have been small.
Yes.
There was a bacchanal too because they say that they're building the highway through the swampland.
Yeah.
The area that they filled in now with the stadium and movie town used to be swampland and everything,
Right.
Right, and there was a bacchanal long time ago to go to Port Spring, to either pass through St. James or go through Mukurapa Road. Right? There was another bacchanal with that. So I don't know what is the big brouhaha with this thing now. And they are insinuating that highway that they're building from Toko, it caused the flooding in Sandy Grande. All the flooding in Sandy Grande. So that's what they did. So they want to make a big confusion with that now. Dominic, boy, I don't know, no? It's sad, I don't know. Anyhow, I go on and watch football.
Thank you, sir.
You take care. By the way, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
What's going on with Mr. Wendell Eversley and Julia Davey? I noticed that the Facebook page kind of been active for a longest while.
I'm not sure. I haven't really seen anything from them.
Alright, because I've been noticing that normally they send video things and them, but I'm not seeing those two people, nobody send video, what do you call it? There's go live.
Go live, yes.
Yeah, but I haven't seen an updated Facebook page since November.
Right.
So I find it very passing strange that, these two people, have been active. I don't know if their Facebook thing has been shut down or they lock out from Facebook. So
okay.
I don't know what's going on with these two things. But Ms. Julia Davy and Mr. Whenever every good day. I hope you have a good Christmas and hopefully we will look out for some of your videos. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Morning, Dominic.
Mano.
Yeah, morning, friend Tobago. Well, I'm in sympathy with the people that died, the family and things, because it's a trauma to go through. As well, we have that put into the people pressure, like a new question going over the mind again, and that is so bad. I used to work in a area something like that, but the only thing, not previously, I used to work around the aircraft, and sometimes you have some kind of position to go in. Once I was in Barbados, and myself and another mechanic on top of number 2 engine. A number 2 engine of a TriStar that is about 20 feet up in the air. And both of us there, and he was sliding off because the engines are wrong, the thrust reversals are wrong thing. He was doing something, I see him sliding off. And I tried to hold him, and both of us, his weight pulled my weight halfway across the engine, both of us on top there alone. The only thing is we to slide back off the end of the engine, and we held on there until we decided with our own mind what to do. Anybody else that come there to try to handle us, 3 of us would have went down, or how much of us come this way would have went down. We siphoned that, and we decided how to get out of that, and both of us let's go same time and push back ourselves together. We fall into a trestle that was close to us there. The trestle that we climbed on. So in this kind of position, you could never tell what's going to take place. When a man goes after this pipe, to this inches pipe, when 4 more people go down inside there, is there any turning point anybody could turn around in case anything happens to pass one or the other? That's the kind of position, and Mr. Ramada, that kind of position you're putting people and terrorizing people is not a position like you want to find out what happens. You have to terrorize people to confuse the man head to make him say something that he is supposed to say, and him to say, yes, you say that, and you say that. That is not good. For you to make a few dollars, that ain't good. You're supposed to find out in a room what happened and how we're going to handle this thing, and who was wrong. I was the boss, and that person was not sending somebody down inside that hole when I don't know what's happening down inside there. 30 inches for 5 or 6, 7, 8 men inside there. When one stick in the entrance, who knows where those bottles was, those air bottles or whatever, where they were stuck, they couldn't come back up. Come on. I agree with Mr. Piper. I'm not sending those men down there, those sympathy for the deaths and things, but at the same time, I would have not sent them down there, knowing the kind of danger that they were in, knowing the kind of danger that the kind of work that I was in and people was in, and what could happen there. Thank you. Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, Mami Sauce. Good morning, Zina. Good morning. I'm gone.
Thank you, Mano. Seeing people posting here that pay off the World Cup rig, the final rig. Okay, then. Well, all right. Hello, good afternoon.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Dominic.
And to you too, sir.
How are you doing, sir?
I am good.
Nice. Lovely. Sister Jenny, morning. Mr. Manu, morning. Trinidad and Tobago, season greetings, all the best. As Mr. Manu just say, share the love and get somebody something and ain't say nothing. Morning, Mr. Manu. Mr. Dominic?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ramada cool down, you know. If you had seen from the start, you would have feel you want to fight people inside of the thing, you know, Mr. Dominic.
Yes.
As the commissioner had also cooling down, you know. You hear, Mr. Dominic? But I'm listening to Mr. Pakash Ramada. Mr. Dominic, you're asking the man about professional divers. So these divers who went down into this pipe wasn't professional divers?
Well, I guess not.
Well, it has to be, because if you want to murder the man telling them about professional divers. So which means these guys who all have down inside the water there, which is the company, because as far as they want to link it, they want to link it to the company, and not the people who get the contract. You understand, Mr. Dominic?
Yes.
Mr. Dominic?
Yes, sir.
Oh. And remember, Mr. Pakas represented two in the persons, eh?
Yes. Families of two of the men, yes.
Yeah. So he want to show that kind of impression that, like, I say, like, he feel when he do that, he go get more money from the family. Because if you come to question a man concerning something, you ain't have to get on in that kind of radical way. Like at one time, I had to stop listening to he until somebody else take over.
Yes.
Because I said, I guess man want to fight.
Totally uncalled for.
Have any friends or anything so in the Coast Guard, Mr. Dominic? Find out for me, please. If Coast Guard have been trained to dive into pipeline. Because I see they was throwing some of the blame on the coast, not one. So I wanted to know, because from my knowledge, I know the Coast Guard, if a boat sinking or somebody in the water and the Coast Guard had to go in the water to retrieve them, I understand that. But I want to know if the Coast Guard and them were trained to dive into pipeline. Yeah, so I since this thing start, I listening in, you know, Mr. Dominic.
Yes.
Since this thing start, I listening in. So these are the questions, because when they taking on the Coast Guard, I wanted to find out if the Coast Guard was trained to dive into pipeline. Yeah. So Mr. Dominic, as you said just now, whatever shorthand work they do, Mr. Dominic, is what cause these men life, eh? It's a shorthand piece of work these fellas do and cause the life of men. And now they're looking for Paria to carry the blame for what take place under a contractor. Yeah, Mr. Dominic?
Yeah.
What, as they say, we wait and see what comes out of this business. So, Mr. Dominic, you be safe, have a safe balance of your day, and blessings through the week. Yeah, big brother?
Thank you, sir.
Give thanks.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And condolences to the family of the lost divers.
Yes.
And condolences to every Trinidad Tobagonian for the loss of our dear singing Francine.
Indeed, yes.
Condolences to all of us. Now, there are certain jobs, I just want to attack it from this point of view. There are certain jobs that is not for the average Joe. There are people who, to me, were like they're born to have that kind of a gene that could take on things that you go into it knowing that you are one dive away from death or one dive away from glory. Case in point, the men who went to save the children in the cave I think it's in the Philippines.
Yes.
One diver perished, but the rest of them went on to incredible fame, and these people were incredibly professional and meticulous in their works. Now, look, there's a certain thing long ago when you used to have a pallet man to do to mash up the filth, and before we had the sewage as we have it now. There were people who used to do that job. How can you pay anybody and say, look, go and be the pallet man and whatnot and whatnot? So I'm saying this because there are people, when you undertake a certain job, you know the risk involved. But as Jenny said, the Trinidadians, nah, there ain't no big thing, man. We will just go there. And then you think of the fame and glory that when it's over. I am not saying that to be harsh on the loss of the family.
Yes.
And apart from which, they are handsomely paid. I don't know if that's a motivation. And they are well paid. Their insurances are high. They live a different lifestyle from the average you and me.
Mm-hmm.
But what the precautions that had to be taken for them, they just probably thought it was another job that they will just go in and come back out or something like that. But we have to take all of this into consideration. It's not everybody is capable of doing a diving job. There are people who can do that and who would want to do that. Nobody could pay me enough to just hold my head underwater for 2 minutes. So I think that is a point of view that we have to look at as well. That the people who do this type of job, they know that they are one dive away from their peril or to fame and glory and that kind of a thing.
Yes.
Nonetheless, the pain is for their family, and we understand that. But they doing this job know the dangers of the job. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Oh, sorry, saying gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Hello, good afternoon.
Pleasant good afternoon to you, Dominic.
Brian, greetings.
Compliments of the season to you and yours.
And to you.
And all the listeners, callers, and viewers of 91.9. Dominic.
Yes, sir.
There's a GFI, a Director General Field Instruction when I was there, about confined space entry. But it had mainly to do with tankage and so on. Now, a tank could be 50 feet wide. You can walk in through the manhole, you used to call it.
Right.
Right, and you can go in there with all the necessary equipment and so on. You didn't have a scuba on your back. What you had was a SCBA, a facial mask, where you could do your breathing and so on. And you can walk in and do whatever examinations you may have to you may have to do, because remember, there would have been oil in that tank, all sorts of different types of oil, and there would be a lot of toxicity. But Dominic, this is a different type of diving, in the sense that why LMCS went down there with scuba gear was because they did not envisage that they would do any work inside of the line. The work was had have been done by a barrier with a positive displacement pressure, and they would have had the work was being done in an atmosphere about 15 feet under the water, right? In an area that with the hyperbaric chamber, within the hyperbaric chamber where there was no water, but some people don't understand that. In other words, a situation was created under the water for them to do their work, right? So the water was on the outside, the water was displaced, and a pressure was maintained for them to do their work. What happened was that there were two plugs, a metallic plug and an inflatable plug, were placed in there that, according to the method statement, is the procedure. Those procedures are done by the contractor, right? And it is then okayed by the company. The company don't have experience in diving. They have experience in maintenance and technical aspects of the job, not scuba diving. And therefore you needed certain people with experience in Delta P situations and so on to know exactly when to remove the plugs to complete the job. It was not in that particular method statement, because they had to put on the extended riser first and then take out the plug. But they didn't do that, because if you go back to when Peterson when Dexter Guerra was giving his testimony and Peterson was questioning him, Peterson asked him, he got him to accept that they did take out the plug. And he said it was easier for him to do it then because they would have to gotten an extension on the piece of equipment which they did not have. And Peterson told him, well, why didn't you simply go and buy one?
Yeah.
He could not answer. He said, you know what happened there? That because that was shortcut, it was easier for them to take it out before they put on the riser, the extended riser. But people have to understand, when they took it out, and this is the point, when they took it out, it created a vortex called a delta P, a differential of pressure that would have been under, inside the line as compared to what was in the hyperbaric chamber, which was higher than what was inside the line, causing the sea to come in with power and pressure and push those men, unfortunately, into the line. Now, people believe in that, but when they went to the line, they went in foot first or head first, and they just swim down inside and everything. It was pressure. So we don't know exactly who was hitting who, at what, when, and how. And remember, that line is an old line with fuel in it, right? Yes, there were vapor pockets, but nobody knew. I want people to understand it is approximately 60 feet downwards, then the bend, and then you had the extension of the line over 400 to 600 feet along the seabed. People must remember, go back and listen to the witness statements, because Mr. Piper said when they heard a knocking, it was closer to number 5 berth. Remember, this was going on at number 6, eh? Number 5 berth is about 600 feet away or more, 600 meters away. So he said he sent 2 people to number 5 berth to see if he hear knocking. In other words, and remember when Michael Kerban went down and he went a little bit past the bend, he said he didn't see anybody or hear anybody or feel anybody. So it goes to show that the men were pushed way down into the pipe. Nobody had that equipment. That is 1. 2, the most experienced diver there was a guy called Bero. He's a saturation diver. That's a diver who can do work for hours under the sea. He said when he was questioned, go back and listen. When he came, he said he was willing to go. He came with his equipment and he was ready to go because I asked him why. He said, because I know the men, I worked with them before and I was willing to help. He was also asked, did you do a risk assessment? He said no. He was also asked, did you have the bodysuit to go down inside that line? And he said no, because that type of bodysuit is not normally used. He's not even sure there was one in Trinidad. And the only type of experience that he had was going into like a relic ship area at the bottom of the sea to get to garner the experience. There is no experience, as far as I know, for anybody to go into with a rope to go into a line 60 feet downwards and approximately another 300 to 400 feet inside of a line. I don't know. I have done the research. I haven't come up with it. You understand? And that is the point that you correctly made earlier, that Prakash Ramada and Ramesh Maharaj, and especially Miss Nari Alfonso, who attempted to say you had the man there, why you didn't send the man, you had the equipment, why you didn't send him. You have to weigh the lives of people, because Prakash Ramada indicated that if he was suggesting civil action, he was suggesting criminal negligence. And you, as an individual with years of experience, have to weigh the options. And if you don't have an assessment of what people are going to meet down there, you can't afford to send people to their death. So that is what these attorneys were asking people to do. So I ask again, if you were in that, I understand it is painful. I know it's Christmas and the loved ones not with them. I understand that. But something happened. What was the people who were responsible for the incident command to do? Send more people down there. Send one of our best divers in Trinidad and Tobago called Barrow down inside there and suppose something that happened for that. Do you know that one of Barrow's colleagues, I forgot his name, who came there to assist said, I am willing to help, but Petrotrin has to give me a guarantee that if anything happens to me, they will take care of all my medical issues for the next 20 years. Because he knew there was an inherent risk and he was one of the more experienced men. And Paria said, we can't guarantee you that, sir. You are asking us to send you in a position whereby you are asking us in case anything happens to you, that we pay for you, your family. What kind of agreement is that? That is the kind of agreement we want to have in this country.
Yes.
That, okay, we send a fire raging. Well, if anything happens to me, you got to pay my family and pay me and fix me and all that. That is how we're going to run risk in the industry that all of us take risk in. That cannot be the standard set. Colin Pipe, and then on top of that, Ramalada asked him, use a crybaby too. What that have to do with questioning the gentleman? And you want a yes or no answer? You don't want no explanation? Yes or no? And you before the man could finish his answers, you're bombarding the man with another question and tell him, I don't want to hear this and I don't want to hear that. And according to your last caller, it's like if you want to fight. I mean, come on. Ramesh Morales was asking the same question about 15 or 20 different times, trying to get a different response. It was draining on me, much less for Colin Piper, who sat there for the entire day. And for Nairi Alfonso to suggest that he had everything there and he should have sent him in. But then they didn't care about those experienced divers who came. Even the Coast Guard divers say, see me ain't going on in that. I don't have that experience. Nobody did. And that was the conundrum that Colin Piper was facing. And people have to understand that nobody knew the conditions of the pipe. I am sorry for the men. I am really, really sorry for their families, but sometimes in industrial issues like these and accidents, as I said before, I have seen where a man got caught and was killed and his supervisor went to help him and he too died. I was there with a young operator now getting into the refinery. And I witnessed that. You understand? And the investigation led to people being blamed. You understand? Because other people wanted to look good. And this is what I saw. And it's shameful that this gentleman are being put through these type of, yes, you must question him, you must represent your people. I understand that. But what is it mean by cry baby and telling Catherine Baldeo saying that you just look down on people, you rotate to talk to little people. What does he mean by that? Dr. Samada and them have no gumption and they are hogs. And I have no respect for him anymore. I thank you very much. Have a good day. Enjoy your Christmas, and I know I will miss you during the course of the week.
Yes, indeed. Right, and I would ask the question, why is it that it took almost 9 months for us to hear about LMCS and the removal of this plug? When this was a live issue that people were talking about all the time, but it only came out in the Commission of Inquiry that LMCS was the cause of the Delta P. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Good afternoon, sir.
Let me make 2 quick points. Point that you just made. That was the point I was hoping to follow those. Mr. Quick. Last week you raised a point. And the point you raised last week.
Mm-hmm.
Data analytics.
Yes.
Yes. We're neutral. I ain't taking no sides. I ain't choosing no political party. That is one. You understand what I'm telling you now, brother?
Yes.
Right. Here the next one. The Commissioner of Inquiry, I forget his name, the Englishman.
Mr. Lynch.
Made a statement to Ms. Balgobin and she started to cry.
Yes.
Hear the justification now. You see the argument he made it? That question he made it? He shouldn't make no question to the lady. So now he put the Commission of Inquiry into disrepute.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you look back at the interview and look at the lady, what's her name?
Ms. Balkisu.
Look at who is sitting behind Ms. Alfonso and see if he is the member of Sama Bataria.
Uh-huh.
All right, so let's move on. Right. What's the name of the man for Paria again?
Mr. Piper?
Mr. Piper. All that time Mr. Piper was there. Nobody told Mr. Piper that they removed the plug,
Right.
So Mr. Piper came on the scene with an incident. He fired the house on fire. But nobody can tell Mr. Piper who turned on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the house catch a fire just so. So Mr. Piper only moving with, well, what is the possibility? But nobody can tell Mr. Piper that I sent down a camera before.
Right.
Nobody can tell Mr. Piper that, yes, my son went down, but here what's going on. Because they take out the plug, and we didn't cater for this, that we didn't have sufficient pipe, because you had to have emergency divers on scene. So you made an emergency rescue before. Immediate, you made an emergency rescue when the next man came out the pipe, you made an immediate rescue. All that time the man missing, you didn't call Mr. Piper and tell me. They took them a while before they admit what happened, you know.
Yeah.
There's a man passing on the dock and was seeing the men and them working and then realized, but wait, now there's a blimp. Oh. Yeah, what I have done, the scuba divers gone. They go with the tank on the back, you understand that? Because you're going in a confined space. You know where the tank is? The tank in front of you and you have the mouthpiece in your mouth.
Yes.
You now remove a chain block. You know what a chain block is?
No.
That's that thing that's used to take out, and this had to be a big one, to remove engines, motor car parts, lift up steel if you're putting up a steel structure, all them kind of things.
Right.
We had to be able to stand a certain amount of pounds. Think about all of that moving along with me inside the pipe, under particular pressure, pushing me, the tank, the chain block, everybody bouncing up and everybody going down inside this confined space of 40 inch or 50 inch. With a pressure that moving me. What do you think will happen to me? I get a break and a bust head, a bust foot, a break ribs.
Correct.
That is why the man who crawled out of the pipe had a break hand.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because there is a way, a procedure in which this thing was supposed to be done. This morning, I performed a work chart of what we was going to do. We were going to take off the wheel, and the procedure taking off the wheel is to jack the car first, put the jack underneath the car, slacken the wheel nut, then jack up the car and take off the wheel. And then send the man under the car. We send the man under the car. While he's under the car, we decide to take off the wheel nut without slackening before he take off the ground. So while I press on the wheel nut, the jack roll and the car fall on the man. Even though I have an next plug on the next end, right?
Yes.
Enjoy evening.
Thank you, sir. But we are focusing on what LMCS did. And just as a reminder, right? The wife of the owner of LMCS was the chairperson of the UNC's Women's League. I thought I'd put that inside. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic, greetings.
Greetings, sir.
I'm going to put a spin, Papa. Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Let me show you a next thing. When the people got rid of the UNC, and they get rid of them with a time and them from the ground report from 91.1. There were two people after that used to do open forum, Dominic. And I still used to be defending Dr. Rowley and the PNM. Until he come and he put Julian Rogers. He do 2 interviews with Julian Rogers before the 2015 general elections. PNM come and win the elections. Next thing, Julian Rogers in charge of CNMG, Dominic. Going over all the head of people who was working there umpteen years and put Julian Rogers. Next thing, he put Donna Cox, Dominic. They mash up all the programs we had there. And when they finish, the both of them resign and they're gone after they do the dirty work for Dr. Rowley. When they finish, they resign and they're gone away. Look up to this day. That woman, Donna Cox, can't get she ministry right. Always some corruption with checks. Dominic, God don't sleep, boy. God don't sleep. That's why me and Dr. Rowley, we will never see eye to eye for the nonsense he did at CNMG. Mano, we go talk later. Dominic, I will leave it here.
All right. When you come back to Trinidad, I think we need to invite you to the studio. We need to have a sit down, right? And you'll air your grievances. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have just 3 things to say to you. One, I think people missing the boat with the Colin Piper affair.
Mm-hmm.
Colin Piper is not the target, or was or is not the target of Ramada's attack, his vicious attack. Colin Piper is just the conduit for the real target. The real target is the chairman of Paria, Newman George.
Yes.
Who happens to be the husband of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So this vicious attack you see on Colin Piper, it's really as if Ramada is interrogating Newman George. He's attacking Newman George via Piper. That is what he's doing. Right? And secondly, I see where, even in today's Express, this character called Ralph Maraj, right? He comes back again after Dr. Rowley decided not to send Iwer Archie to any tribunal. You know, this man comes back again today to suggest that they are in collusion with each other. That Dr. Rowley and Iwer Archie are in collusion. He used the word collusion. It's not my word. It's his word. He said they are in collusion with each other. So after this thing was resolved 2 or 3 years already, he comes back, just as he always comes back. Just as he always comes back and associates Dr. Rowley with A.V. Drilling. Even after Gary Griffith said the local police, his local police officers, along with the international police officers, they have found no evidence to link Dr. Rowley to any foreign bank account, and certainly to no bank account in Florida, no joint account with anybody from A.B. Drilling. But he comes back with that all the time. Right? And thirdly, and finally, I'm glad that last caller mentioned Julian Rogers. I'm very glad that he mentioned Julian Rogers. Because when Pandey was Prime Minister, Julian Rogers was one of the best individuals in electronic media that we have had for a long time. Pandey, he wouldn't tell you that Pandey refused to renew his work permit.
Correct, yes.
Yes, and I distinctly recall Pandey referred to him as an alien. That's the word Pandey used. This is a West Indian man, eh?
Yes.
This is a West Indian man. He refers to him as an alien because he feels Julian Rogers of CNM. And Pandey instructed Joseph Theodore, who was then the Minister of National Security, to cancel or to revoke Julian Rogers' work permit and send him back to Barbados. That is what Pandey did. And that's why I'm glad that the fella mentioned Julian Rogers' name. So I could just remind him of what Pandey did to Julian Rogers. Good afternoon and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, 342-008-1466-5391. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Yes, I'm referring to this guy again, I'll leave it there.
Yes.
You know, they're so dishonest and so like they tell half-truths. We could remember he said they take Julian Rogers and went over other people's head. We could remember Rishmi Ramnarain and Ms. Hakan
yes.
with false papers.
Yes.
Rishmi Ramnarain was to be in charge at the secret organization.
Yes, the SSA.
Right.
Yes.
She had no degree. One of the people with the degrees. What about Rambaran at the central bank? He went over other people's head too that were more qualified than him.
Yes.
They consider him an OJT. That's what they consider him. So these guys are not real and they're not honest and straightforward, and they could fool the blind, not even the blind, but they feel they could fool the blind and mislead people. That's all they're about. Kamala and a bunch of people just want to mislead people to make them believe something is wrong, and when they do it, it is not wrong. You know, they want to have a double standard, and I remind people, I ain't being nothing, but to me, Dominic, like we always have problems with East Indian and African and all over the world.
Yes.
People forgetting Idi Amin. Idi Amin asked, I'm saying it, this is not me. Idi Amin asked the Indians to leave Uganda because of racism and because of discrimination they were practicing in Uganda. I know people don't know that, you know. Idi Amin told them to stay at their own risk. If they don't leave within a month, because of racism, it happened in Guyana, it happened in Fiji too. Miss Letitia James, the Attorney General for New York, has scolded the president of Guyana for racism. And we forgotten that quite recently.
Correct.
So we not playing games with these UNC. They come in with the same behavior. The same behavior they come in with here. And we plenty Africans even who want to support them. I'm glad to support them, but I'm not supporting a racist organization because they're reminding me of the Nazi party. They remind me of the Ku Klux Klan. That is the UNC. And before I leave, I want to say that I am yet to see an African pundit from the Mahasabha from 1845 till 2022. I am seeing Indian priests and pastors in all religions that are filled with African. I'm yet to see, I don't know what you call that. Have a good day, Dominic.
Thank you.
Barry Valentine out.
Thank you. The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM. Mano, final call.
I want to know what Mr. Lever there have with Dr. Rowley. If he do good, he find a wrong in it. If he, I don't know what it is, Mr. Lever there. Dr. Rowley is doing a damn good job than almost any prime minister pass through Trinidad and Tobago, or equivalent or almost better than any prime minister pass through Trinidad and Tobago. And anything he do because you didn't get your own way with him, because you didn't get to eat his white fowl, or eat with him and your own white fowl, you have a problem. Dr. Rowley is a good man. He's doing the things to save the country. And why you have to call Rogers? As the man says, why didn't call Rashmi name? Look, go and eat your meatball and spaghetti with sister cook for you. And have a nice day. Don't worry to call me in your confusion at all. You understand? Mr. Lividia, stay away from me, right? I don't like man.
Oh Lord. Again, the views expressed by the callers are not the views of the management of the Street 919 FM. Folks, we are out of time but not out of things to say. So join Sharon and Bruce again tomorrow morning for Titans of Democracy, and God's willing, I'll be back with you on Tuesday. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. For those of you taking in the football, those who are upset with the current score, morning to Eric, or good afternoon, sorry. Because I look at that Facebook, there are people vexed, they're real vexed, but oh gosh, it is what it is, right? So don't stress all yourself too much, because there's life after the World Cup. So, so anybody celebrating a birthday today, any of our listeners, we trust that you would have a good one, and happy birthday from all of us here at the Street 919 FM. And with that, I will take my leave, folks. It was a pleasure, as always, being with you on this Sunday. So enjoy the rest of it, and we will chat again on Tuesday. I'm out.